Thank you very much for asking me to do this, Andrew. The first thing I want to tell you is a true story about a Bible college in Ethiopia. What happened was that at the end of their third year of a fourth-year course, the people decided, the leaders decided that it would be a good thing if they went out on an evangelistic outreach tour, and they went up to the north of Ethiopia to a tribe which had never heard the gospel. They were animists, so there was no orthodox concept of Christianity or anything else. They knew nothing about Christ. And animists are very frightened because under every stone and everywhere there are evil spirits for which they're frightened. And the people responded ecstatically to the gospel. It was a 2-week tour. Nobody was left to guide them or bring them on, but the plan was to go back after a year and see what had happened. And they went back after a year, and people wouldn't even receive them. They were so disappointed that what they had received with ecstasy didn't work. They didn't have a background on which to build. And I've seen in Ethiopia, my wife will remember with me, one day we had a group of people come along ecstatic because they had met an animist person walking along the road, and after 5 minutes conversation they said that they were Christians. And these people were joyous because they had converted this person. Nothing had been arranged or done to follow up. Now, I don't know the end of that story, but it would worry me that what the end result was, because they didn't have a background, on a foundation on which to build. So you might ask, well, what about the thief on the cross? His dealings with Jesus were momentary and cut off short, I guess you might say. But he did have a foundation. He no doubt had heard about Jesus, and he no doubt knew a lot about the Jewish basis on which Christ came. So there we are. Are we saved by knowledge? Well, if you were brought up in the AV, the Authorised Version, the Old King James Version, you'll remember that 2 Timothy 2:15 says, study to show yourself approved unto God, a workman who doesn't need to be ashamed. Would you like to think about faith? Is faith knowledge-based? Not all faith is. Some faith is a leap into the dark. But in actual fact, the concept is that faith should be based, for the Christian concept, faith should be based on facts. And later on, there may well be feelings. But we don't go on feelings, we go on the truth of what we know. So there is a sense in which faith doesn't save us. Faith is the means by which we enter into the grace of God. And that verse that's quoted up there as well, for by grace are you saved through faith, and this is not of your own doing, it is the gift of God. Is it the same for everybody? We have got a nephew whose IQ would be 40 to 50. He can hardly make a sentence, but he loves Jesus. And do I think that God expects the same understanding of the facts. What he's grasped of the facts, he's responded to excitedly. But on the other hand, if you are a professor or if you're an intelligent person, why should you not know on what your faith is based? Now, you and I think, are all privileged in that we grew up in an era or in a family which had a basic concept of God and some of his attributes. We knew that he was the creator. We were taught that. Now, basically, people are not taught that nowadays. Darwin in the 20th century, in the 19th century, I think he died in 1860 or something like that. But Aldous Huxley, who was a champion of evolution, died in 1960 something. So the real effect of the anti-creation group has come to a head within the lifetime of the young people of this country. So that the privilege that we had of a basis of at least some understanding, they don't have. In fact, it's decried. It's pulled down. They don't go to Sunday school. We were taught there was a heaven and hell, for instance. We taught about God and we taught about sin. Lots of people don't believe that they're sinners these days. Now, there was a guy called Ben Skaggs, he still is a fellow, and he did a lot of outreach into unevangelized tribes, in Chad first of all, but a number of other countries. And he refused to talk about Jesus when he went into the country. He said, I need a foundation on which to build my gospel that I preach. And so he developed a chronological Bible and Bible studies. Are the people that we are trying to outreach into in Australia today an unreached country? I try and talk to lots of young people and the Bible is, and so on and so forth. And so we do really need to. Now, Andrew knows that I talk too much, so I better be very quick. But for instance, if I say to you, do you know about breathing? And the answer is, of course I do. I go in, I inhale, you might even say, and I go out, and I exhale, and if I stop, I'm dead. You know about breathing. But if I talk to you about vital capacity, or residual volume, or tidal volume, it means, I think, probably nothing. Even to you? I know. You do know it. Okay, well, that's a start. But if you're really going to understand breathing, and I taught anaesthetics, because even though I was a surgeon, we didn't have an anaesthetic teacher in our country. But I know this, that somehow or other we need to get the basics of Christianity through to our people. This is the last slide for me that comes up. Professor Stanton Hicks, no relative of ours, when we went into medicine, first year of clinical medicine, he said to us, medicine is really just a different language. He said, you'll go to the doctor and say, I've got pain in my chest. And he'll say, you're suffering from angina pectoris. And what does angina pectoris mean? Pain in the chest, only in a different language, in a medical language. Now, I think that a lot of what we're taught in this, we've got the embryonic understanding of it. We know something about the solitariness of God, that he was before creation, that he was perfectly content as the triune God. And he didn't have to make us. Things like that. But we know it in an embryo form, and we will be greatly blessed if we understand it and take it on board more. I didn't time myself, did you?